please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us. We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment. And you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have our military equipment,
you invited me.
If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Ironically, one of the key points J.D. Vance, the American vice president, underscored to President Zelensky during that volatile press conference was the need for diplomacy. Of course, he was speaking in the context of resolving the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But as soon as the American vice president stepped in, diplomacy seemed all but over. What followed looked more like verbal pugilism in full media glare right in front of the whole world. Several diplomats have pointed out that what happened was avoidable, as the whole point of such meetings is to find the middle ground despite the disagreements. Others say that was a plan of the Trump administration all along, to ambush President Zelensky and bully him into signing a critical minerals deal without the kind of security guarantees Ukraine wanted in return. After all, President Trump did call it good TV. And then there is the argument that somebody needed to show President Zelensky the mirror, or as Trump put it, remind him about the hand he is holding, as in a game of cards. But was that the only way? I'm sure most will disagree. I'm joined by Yulia Klymenko, the People's Deputy of Ukraine, to help us understand how that's been taken in Ukraine and, of course, whether it is still possible to find common ground for Ukraine and the US. Ms. Klymenko, thank you for taking the time and talking to us.
Hello, thank you for hosting me.
My first question to you, I'm sure you must have been watching the press conference live. What was going through your mind?
That is a disaster, actually, and I think this shouldn't be the way how two leaders are talking to each other in any case. So, unfortunately, it's turned to be more a scandal than the discussion, and I think everybody should calm down.
Right, more scandal than productive discussion. Now, what I've done is this. I've picked up some quotes from the meeting, points which many are saying is where it all started to unravel. Now, let me read some of them to you. And since President Zelensky did not get the chance to answer the charges and clarify his position, I thought we will get you to elaborate on what President Zelensky wanted to say and, of course, respond to some of the charges leveled by President Trump and his administration. So the first quote is by the American Vice President, J.D. Vance, and he said that, Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of American media. Of course, this was the first thing, which happened after the first 30 minutes, where people started thinking that perhaps, that's where things started getting a little heated. Now, is this what President Zelensky was attempting, knowing that Donald Trump may not be as cooperative as Joe Biden? Was President Zelensky trying to pressure the Trump administration by, as Vice President Vance said, litigating his case in front of the American media?
I don't think it was the case, because you have to look the whole press conference. Actually, it was not only 5 minutes of heated discussions, but it was like 50 minutes. It was a good discussions before it was turned to this heated exchange. But in general, what is trying to say, and this is rightly, because it is a mandate of the Ukrainian nation, that we would like to see security guarantees, not only to sign mineral deals, and to invite US investors and European investors and Indian investors. We're very happy to have foreign direct investments, but also we have to understand our security guarantees, because we do not believe, as you know, we signed Budapest Memorandum many years ago, 3 decades ago, and as a result, we have a full-scale invasion of one of these signatories. And another one, which is the United States, actually also trying to get off responsibility of this memorandum, because that's why we don't want memorandums. We want clear guarantees, including security guarantees, how we can have sustainable and prolonged peace in Ukraine.
One of the things which was also said by the American vice president was, it's more of a charge, and that is that Ukrainians are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because Ukraine apparently has a manpower problems. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you agree with that charge?
No, I don't agree with that because actually we have 1 million army. The army is bigger than the whole Europeans army probably in total. And we really have a very big army. So yes, there is always a problem of the growth. We had before the full-scale invasion, we had 250,000 army. And we actually, it's 4 times bigger. If you don't have enough infrastructure to train people, to equip people, to involve people in a more sophisticated training, and there is a problem because it's not about conscription. Mostly it's because we need to increase our capacity to train people and to equip people with a weapon, with a proper weapon, not with an old Soviet weapon. So now it's like in each and every company you have growth problems when you are growing very fast. But we have these challenges, and we are trying to meet these challenges to increase our capacity of our training centers, etc., etc. So we cannot conscript people just to conscript. We need to conscript people and to train them, to equip them, and then to replace people who are on the front line. So we are not going to increase our army by 1 million people because it is very expensive. As you know, we are paying by ourselves salaries of our military. All military equipment and plus food. We are paying for the maintaining our army by the money of Ukrainians and money of taxpayers. So nobody paying for that. So, and we cannot increase army for another 1 million people. So, as I said, we need to increase our capacity of training, including with the help of our international partners, and to properly equip people for the fighting on the front line. So this is, this is not true that we have a problem with conscription. We have problems with training and equipping. Yes, this is, but this is a problem, I think, each and every nation will have if they will make their army 4 times bigger. In 2 or 3 years. It's almost impossible to train 700,000 people, even with the size of India or with the size with China. It's very difficult. And you can see the problems in Russia. They actually started to employ, or I don't know how to force North Koreans to fight instead of Russians because they really have problems with conscription. Russians also don't want to fight. And that's why they actually put these people from North Korea as slaves on the front line. And you know that we already, unfortunately, but we had to kill them. And we killed more than 4,000 people of this from North Korea. And they again start to replacing their people. But there is a clear a clear problem that the Russians have. They have with a manpower because they have to employ and to put North Koreans instead of Russians.
Sure, we're aware of that issue, but what would you say about the videos which can be found on X and other social media platforms where Ukrainians are clearly being picked up, put in vans, and by people in uniform, by men in uniform, and that is perhaps what Donald Trump was referring to?
Yes, I think so. Unfortunately, we have these cases. You know that the forceful conscription and mobilization is not popular in any country. I think the same you will see in European countries if it will be a war on European continent or in any other countries. But we have,
so as you know, happening in Ukraine.
I think yes, it's happening. It's a very, very, a very tense discussion inside Ukrainian nation that this is a problem that we have these conscription rules and conscription method we inherited from Soviet Union. So unfortunately, we have very Soviet way of conscription based on so to say on forceful conscription, not on motivation, and we have to change it, including on legislation level. So to motivate people to go to the army. We have enough motivated people, but unfortunately such cases, as you said, on social media do not contribute in a positive way to the thinking of people. So people want to pick up their own brigade, to be equipped, to be trained, and then they are ready to go to the front line and fight. That's the right way. And to be motivated by money, by morale, by any other things that you can find when you are in the front line.
Problematic as it might be, thank you for being so transparent and accepting the way things are, and of course the perspective of rest of the world that that is perhaps not the right way. Having said that, the next quote that I want to move to from that meeting was, of course, when President Zelensky tried telling Donald Trump that US is perhaps feeling safe because there is an ocean, between, of course, the European continent and America. So Donald Trump, in response to that, said, "You're in no position to dictate what we are going to feel. We're going to feel very good and very strong." President Zelensky was, of course, as I pointed out earlier, was trying to tell him that US is safe, but Europe perhaps is not feeling as safe as US is, and that the Russian president will not stop at Ukraine. Is that what he was trying to convey when President Trump stopped him?
Yes, actually, what he is saying, and this is actually a mistake of the protocol. They should be put a translator between Trump and Zelensky, because what is Zelensky saying in English? It's a very Ukrainian version of English, I would say. So sometimes it's the translation needed, professional translation, to deliver in a proper ways, and it's not just a direct translation. That's, I think, is one of the biggest mistakes that was done during this meeting. You have to have a translator who can properly translate the ideas. The idea behind it, yes, because USA is very far from European continent and from Ukraine. They can feel, at least for now, they can feel safer. But we have to understand that the example of Ukraine, if Ukraine fail, will be a very good example to other countries which are thinking of acquiring their neighbors. In India case, it's a China case. In Taiwan case, it's a China case. In other countries, you can see, aggressive neighbors who are dreaming to take a part of your territories or just to make a burden. That's why it's like a Pandora box. It shouldn't be open, but it's half open at this point of time, and I hope it will not be 100% open. But as you can see, European leaders are very well aware of what will happen if Ukraine will fail. Because first of all, if Ukraine will fail, then Russia will acquire our 1 million army. And it will be 2.5 million of Russian army going to the European continent, because what they are doing now, they are on occupied territories. They are taking forcefully taking Ukrainian men into Russian army. So this is, I see as the biggest danger in general, that if Russia will prevail, they will acquire our very well skilled and very well forcefully, unfortunately. But it is as it is. We are human beings. If we will be forced to go, probably there is no other way, as we can see on occupied territories. So it's a very dangerous for European continent, and I think European leaders already much more so to say, deeper in understood it. And you saw the meeting yesterday in United Kingdom, in UK, with European leaders, and they discussed how they will reinforce their defense sector, to speed up it, to reinforce their armies. So they understand that most probably US will make a lower, so to say, contribution into this, into the security and defense of their continent, and they have to take care of themselves. And I think this is, the main idea out of all these meetings, that it will speed up the process of the defense and security ally unity inside the European continent. I think it probably will not be a separate defense alliance, but in general it will boost, so to say, defense and security sector in Europe.
Yeah, but perhaps that's a bit far-fetched, considering Europe, of course, has nuclear weapons, and of course it is part of NATO. But moving on, I want to move to the next quote, and that is, of course, about when President Donald Trump told President Zelensky that your country is in big trouble. And after that, of course, President Zelensky tried to explain to him how Ukraine is standing strong, but President Trump interrupted him and, quote, he said, no, you have done a lot of talking, your country is in big trouble. And Donald Trump pointed out that cities have been wiped out. President Zelensky countered and said that's not the case and that Ukrainians are still fighting. But with nearly 20% of Ukrainian territory now under Russian control, that's not a wrong assessment. Wouldn't you agree?
Actually, I would say that, first of all, we have war for 11 years. Started in 2014. So right. For us, it not started 3 years ago. It started 11 years ago. We are clearly understand what is the impact and what is the contribution of US. But we are definitely not in the biggest trouble, probably, because at least we have a big army, 1 million. We are producing a lot of weapons. We are producing by ourselves at least 40% to 50% what we needed in the front line. Drones, mines, etc., etc. We can cooperate with Europe to produce the outstanding amount. So we have enough money for next 2 years. And that's why we are more or less in a good position. But US should understand, if they are not contributing, if they are not participating, if they are leaving it only for European continent, then they shouldn't be probably the most influential country in European continent. So they are actually opening the room for other forces to come to European Union and to cooperate with the countries of European Union and Ukraine. So if this is a position of the United States, it's okay. I mean, if they want to be, so to say, internally focused, this is their right, but they definitely will lose their world power, so to say, to influence on many other processes. But I think this is not the case at this point of time. And I think with all this, after all these heated discussions, European Union and the US and Ukraine will come down and sit and talk how we can actually repair all these things. But it's not like tomorrow we will fail and Russia will occupy another 80% of the territories. No, because as you can see, even on the latest news, we are taking back our villages and towns on the front line. So we are moving and pushing Russians back. And this is, at this point of time, it's a deadlock. So neither Russia nor Ukraine can do major blow on the front line. So it's a positioning war.
I think you're right in your assessment when you say if US takes a backseat on this one, then of course it will lose that role which it has had in in such situations. But having said that, I quickly want to move to the next quote, and that is of course Donald Trump telling President Zelensky that, quote, "You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us, not without us." And now the question is, of course, how dependent at this point in time is Ukraine really on US, and can Ukraine and EU stand up to Putin without US, the scenario that you were referring to, earlier?
As I said, we are, for past year, for 2024, we get approximately 20% of the help, military and finance help from US. I mean, it's 20% is replaceable. No, you can replace it. Yes, they have unique technologies as Patriots, which is produced, its air defense system, which produced only in US, and some unique technologies, but it's not like it will have a great impact on the front line. So we are on a regular basis, we are actually fighting with two major things. It's drones and artillery. So it's not, sometimes you need more reinforced, and we need more reinforced air defense system. But as I said, it will not stop the war. So even if tomorrow Trump and US will decide to stop everything for European Union and for Ukraine, we can fight further. European Union today or tomorrow will replace US military support. But I mean, it will take time, efforts. It will need to have unity among European leaders. The US technologies are very good and very efficient. But they are not making the 100% change in a battlefield. So it is as it is. We want to stay with the US as a friends, partners, and buying US weapon. But if they decide not to do it, so we will. I mean, we have no other option as to fight, because we don't see any opportunity for peace from Russian side. So they are not ready, as you can see, of many discussions in Istanbul, in Riyadh. There is no outcome out of these discussions, even without Ukraine. So it's just, unfortunately, a deadlock, even without Ukraine, who is participating in these discussions. We don't see any clear outcome of these discussions between US and Russia. So it's just many hours of discussions with no results. If it is so easy to talk to Russia, if it's easy to force them, let's do it, even without Ukraine. But you and me, we don't see any feasible results.
So that's about his President Zelensky's US visit. Now let's talk about one visit, which of course turned out and was along the expected lines, and that was his visit to the UK, where he was welcomed by Prime Minister Keir Starmer with open arms. Now, what do you think Prime Minister Starmer understands about the situation which Donald Trump is refusing to?
I mean, Britain always was, UK was the force, I mean, probably the biggest military and maritime and, intelligence force on the European continent. If they are not part of European Union, but still they have a lot of experience, they have a lot of possibilities, and they were actively fighting during the World War II. So they went through the big war, not like US, who actually didn't have in 20th or 21st century any major war. So Britain still remember how it is to fight against Hitler, and they clearly understand what is on the stake. So I think Britain, as well as Europe, will take a lead finally. And I think they took very clear and right position, and I think that they have enough capacity and possibility to be leading this union, so to say, or ally inside Europe. So I think maybe they are not the biggest friends with the European Union on trade, but definitely they will be friends on defense and security, because they know how it could be difficult to fight alone, and they already went through this in World War II.
You're right. I mean, the world war was not fought, on US territory. It was fought, of course, across Europe. So Europeans do definitely have, the memory of that war and, of course, experience. But having said that, my last question to you is, of course, about the possibility of Ukraine and US eventually over, let's say, more discussions, arriving at a point where the critical minerals deal can be signed, and as Ukraine would expect, for US perhaps to even be an arbiter of some of the security guarantees that Ukraine wants along with the EU. Of course, that will be the ideal situation. So have you heard anything from Washington at this point in time? What do you think is going to happen on that front?
Actually, what I've heard, not from Washington, but from the UK and Europe, that they agree on additional financing of Ukraine. Okay. They agree on additional weapon help for Ukraine, and also they agree on a framework of a mineral deal. And I think it will be more discussed later. But I mean, we already signed mineral deal on lithium and titanium with Europe in 2021. So we have this deal. We just need to expand it, and we just need to include the United Kingdom as a part of this deal. So I think it already discussed, so to say, the framework. So we just need to add more to this deal. And of course, Europe and the UK are very much interested in minerals in Ukraine because they want to compete with China. And without these minerals, it's very difficult to compete with China. And they have to buy from China many minerals and ready products like batteries for the cars, etc., etc. So it definitely will boost European economy if they will invest into the Ukrainian minerals and Ukrainian industries. And they are closer to us. The actual logistics will be cheaper. And also, I think the fourth big outcome of this yesterday meeting, is that UK and Europe will prepare a draft plan agreed with Ukraine on peace deal. He agreed with Ukraine, and they present Trump and his team with this plan and agree with Trump. So this is a way probably how we can now start manage this situation before all emotions will be calmed down and we can work directly with the US.
And quickly, any lessons from the last meeting? Because, of course, President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance definitely were aggressive. But at the same time, President Zelensky, by the first 30 minutes, if anybody is going to listen to that press conference or did watch that press conference, by the first 30 minutes, President Zelensky had two assurances from Donald Trump. One was, of course, that yes, US will supply more arms and ammunition to Ukraine. And of course, that it will support Ukraine. So he had those two key assurances by then. And just a few minutes after that, of course, it all started to unravel. You pointed out that, perhaps the absence of a translator at that point in time was one of the things which led to this kind of a fiasco. But any other lessons that Ukraine has drawn from that press conference?
First of all, a proper translator who can translate, difficult text, so to say. And also, there is no way and option for emotions in a very difficult times. If nations struggling and there is a changing and very challenging environment, you cannot allow yourself emotions. So unfortunately, I saw emotions from all sides of these heated discussions. And I didn't want to see it again, honestly, because I think people shouldn't be paying by blood for emotions of the leaders in the world. So they have to be more responsible from all sides, and they have to consider consequences and results before they have heated discussions. I mean, everybody should calm down because we don't need World War III. Definitely, we want to have peace. We want to cooperate. We want economic growth, and we have peace and prosperity for all nations. That's why if you have this big goal, then you have to keep your emotions under control.
Thank you so much, Ms. Klymenko, and thank you for being so transparent. And of course, in such a situation, in the aftermath of such a situation, the tendency usually is to be on the defensive, to try and defend everything. But thank you so much for being so transparent and discussing, this entire issue with us. Look forward to talking to you in future again, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.